You're not rising to the occasion in leadership meetings. You're actually dropping to whatever is available within you when that pressure hits. And that's why a lot of smart, really capable people can sound sharp in private and team meetings and then go blank in executive rooms. It's usually not because they don't know what to say. It's actually because they're trying to build the point while the pressure has already hit and the room is already moving around you. And that is a really hard thing to do. In this video, I want to show you 3 ways to make speaking up easier before the pressure takes over, because the people who contribute consistently in important meetings are usually not improvising from scratch. They have already made a few key decisions before the conversation starts. In the last video, I talked about why freezing in meetings is often more layered than what people think. So it's the pressure, it's a hierarchy, it's a perfectionism, it's all the self-monitoring that we do. And all of that can show up fast when the room already feels heavy on us. So the natural next question becomes, what do we actually do with that? And what helps most people is creating the conditions that help your brain and your body to stay with your message when the moment comes. So one of the biggest reasons why people freeze is because they're trying to figure out what to say in the moment. And by then you would have already listened, you've already looked around, seen people's reactions, their body language, and you're also then having many thoughts to yourself and filtering through what you should or shouldn't say. Or maybe someone already said that and now I have to alter what I have to say. And the moment becomes too late because all of the opinions that you already had been expressed. So instead of walking in a room just thinking that you will contribute this time, think about a category that you want your contribution to land in. And you can decide this based on the agenda of the meeting. And if this is a regular meeting, you probably already know the type of conversations that are going to happen, the decisions that need to be made. Based on this knowledge, you could already predict how your contribution can be inserted into this meeting. So it could be a risk that you want to call out. It might be a decision that you want to help influence or to help create. It might be questions that you want to ask to clarify the direction, or maybe a pattern cross-functionally that you want to point out. So I just want to be cautious here as well, because the point is not to predict the outcome of the meeting going in, but it's just making sure that when that pressure hits, your brain has a lane to kind of swim in. Because without that lane, your mind can just fill the blanks with the pressure that you feel, and you start thinking things a little bit differently. That difference could be a good thing if you already are speaking up in the room, because it adds that creative flair, helping you to think on your feet and or make decisions on the spot. But if you're not in that stage yet, that difference that you start to think could actually be a narrative that you don't want to hear in your brain. So it could be, oh my goodness, I don't know what to say now. Oh my goodness, is this point going to be strategic enough? So you want to extinguish that. So you extinguish it by knowing the agenda, understanding the pattern of the meeting, and deciding on your lane. And then the next challenge is really getting yourself to get started. So most people don't freeze because they don't know what to say or they have no thoughts. They freeze because they just can't get that engine started. They're trying to just get into the perfect framing. They're trying to have mentally rehearsed 5 sentences and making sure that it sounds perfect when it comes out. But it never quite does it? So that's why I don't recommend scripting your whole point. But I do recommend scripting a entry sentence. So if the lane or the category that you want to share in the meeting is around risk, your entry sentence could sound like, the risk that I want to flag is. One thing that we may be underestimating is, before we move on, I want to clarify the implication for our team, what I'm noticing in this discussion. And what makes this helpful is that a lot of people aren't stuck in what they have to say, but it's just getting that entry point. It's inserting yourself into the conversation. So if you're prepped with that entry point, it makes it significantly easier for you to jump into that meeting. So before your next meeting, think about your first sentence, and it doesn't have to be like super brilliant. The whole point of it is just to get you started and get you engaged in that conversation verbally. And then once you begin to start talking, the pressure actually can drop because you're not building up any more pressure. You're not feeling like that shaken up pop bottle. You now have participated. You're now gaining new evidence and growth for yourself that you can do this. So getting that entry sentence in is going to make the rest of the point easier for you to access. And if this is helpful and if you want more entry lines to get in on the conversation, I have a free resource called The 7 Scripts for Leadership Presence. And it gives you really simple ways to enter the conversation and make a point clearly. And you can download that below. And keep watching because there is one more strategy that is going to make a huge difference if you tend to wait too long and miss your window of entry. Even when you know the kind of point that you want to make and the entry into that point, you still need a plan to enter the conversation. Otherwise, it's going to be really easy to slip back into that pattern of hesitation. Because a lot of thoughtful and quiet professionals tend to wait until they have more context, a little bit more clarity, maybe a better opening, maybe listening in can help to reinforce your point, or one more second just to organize your thoughts. And then before you know it, 7 voices have already jumped in and the room has moved on from the point that you were trying to land. So one of the easiest things that you can do is to go into the meeting committing in advance that you're going to speak early and not necessarily the first or even the second, because you might need some time to calibrate to the room, but not so late either. So a really useful target is to go third. And that gives you just enough context to hear enough of the conversation so you know where it's headed, but not so much time where it gives you enough space to self-spiral and hesitate. So the first person speaks, the second person reacts, and you're the third person who is going in with your question, with the pattern that you're noticing, a concern, or a recommendation. And this actually helps you because you're creating expectations for your brain. You're training yourself to actually participate while the conversation is happening. And there is still room for your point to land. And this might feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but that's normal. That's how growth happens. And to help to ease the discomfort a little bit, you can try a visualization activity. So before the meeting, actually picture the sequence. You probably know the usual suspects who go in first, and you probably might have an expectation of what they might say, who tends to go second. Now visualize yourself going in third. And also visualize yourself entering in that conversation in calmness, being grounded, sounding confident. And that mental rehearsal is actually really helpful because your brain actually responds really well to familiarity. And when you've pictured it before, that scene is going to be more familiar to your brain, and that makes it more likely to happen in action. So you're not purely relying on motivation. You're giving yourself a lane, an entry, and a specific spot to enter into. And this makes speaking up in the moment easier because you don't have to invent in the moment. So if you want to speak up more consistently at work, especially in high stakes meetings, the goal is not to pressure yourself. The goal is to make it easier to navigate before the meeting even happens. So that means deciding on your contribution category before the meeting starts. It means pre-writing your first sentence so you're not trying to figure that out when you're already stressed out. And it means that you're deciding that you're going to contribute early in the meeting, maybe in the third position, before you've gone into a self-spiral that makes you hesitate. And these are small shifts, but that's how change compounds. When you're able to step slowly outside of your comfort zone with really small shifts every single day, it will become more comfortable for you. Your comfort zone expands, and before you know it, you've formed new behaviors. And if you want the language itself to get started, don't forget to download my 7 scripts for leadership presence. And in the next video, I'm going to talk to you about something that gets quiet professionals stuck, even when they're trying to improve. And that is the really bad advice that you get from people at work. I'll see you in the next video.